A 10-year-old girl walked into a bank with $500,000. They laughed at her shoes. Big mistake. What you're about to hear isn't fiction. It's about judgment, power, and the single moment that destroys everything you think you've built. This happened inside Heritage Federal Bank, Tuesday morning, 11:23 a.m. The lobby smelled like leather and cologne. Marble floors reflected fluorescent lights. Customers tapped their phones in line. Tellers smiled on autopilot. Everything was normal until she walked in. Emily Carter, 10 years old, 4'6", cracked shoes, oversized jacket with sleeves that covered her hands. She held a manila envelope against her chest like it might disappear if she let go. Inside that envelope was a letter, a bank card, and documents that would end a career. She stepped up to the counter, waited her turn, spoke softly. "Excuse me, I need to check my account balance." That's when he laughed. Not a chuckle, not a polite smile, a laugh that carried across the entire lobby. The kind that says, "You don't belong here."
Security,
The man
send this girl
behind
out
the
of the
counter
bank now.
was Richard Harlan, branch manager, 15 years in banking, tailored suit, $1,000 shoes, the kind of confidence that comes from never being challenged. He looked at Emily's shoes first, then her jacket, then her face, and he decided who she was in 3 seconds. He was about to make the worst decision of his life. Let me tell you something about judgment. It happens fast, faster than thought. Your brain sees shoes, clothes, skin, age, and decides worthy or worthless. Richard Harlan had done this 10,000 times. He'd sized up customers in seconds and never been wrong, or so he thought. Emily stood at the counter, envelope in hand, waiting. Richard didn't ask her name, didn't ask what she needed. He just kept laughing. Other customers turned their heads. A woman in heels smirked. A businessman in a navy suit shook his head and went back to his phone. An elderly couple glanced over, then away, embarrassed. No one said anything. That's the thing about humiliation. It needs an audience, and silence is permission. Emily's voice was steady, quiet, polite. "My grandfather opened this account. He told me to come here if I needed help." Richard leaned forward on the counter, arms crossed, still smiling. "Your grandfather, right. And what's his name?" "William Carter." Richard typed the name into his computer, slowly, like he was doing her a favor, like this was all a joke he was letting her finish. The screen loaded. He glanced at it, paused, frowned. Something flickered across his face, not quite doubt, not yet, but something. He recovered fast, leaned back, crossed his arms again. "Okay, sweetie, I'm gonna need to see some ID and proof of guardianship because this account is for adults, not kids playing dress-up." Emily reached into the envelope, pulled out her grandfather's letter. Her hands were shaking just slightly. "He wrote me this. It says I can access the account." Richard didn't even look at it. "That's not how banks work, honey. You can't just walk in with a note." She pulled out the card. Black, platinum, private banking tier. Richard froze, just for a second. Then he snatched the card from her hand without asking, held it up to the light like he was inspecting a forgery. His jaw tightened. And here's where it gets interesting, because in that moment, Richard had a choice. He could admit he was wrong, apologize, help the girl, or he could double down. Guess which one he picked? "Where did you get this?" Emily blinked. "My grandfather gave it to me." "Right, and where's he now?" "He passed away." Richard's expression didn't soften. If anything, it hardened. "So you're telling me your dead grandfather gave you a platinum card and told you to come here?" "Yes." "And you expect me to believe that?" Emily didn't answer. She didn't know what to say. She'd done everything her grandfather told her to do, followed every instruction, been polite, been patient, and now this man was treating her like a criminal. Richard looked around the lobby, made sure people were watching. This wasn't just about Emily anymore. It was about control, about power. Okay, here's what's going to happen. You're going to sit over there, he pointed to a chair in the corner near the restrooms, away from everyone else. And you're going to wait while I verify this. Do not move, do not bother anyone. Understand? Emily nodded. She walked to the chair, sat down, folded her hands in her lap, and waited. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Richard made a phone call, hung up, typed something on his computer, didn't look at Emily once. Meanwhile, other customers moved through the bank like water. A man in a business suit opened a new account in 4 minutes. No ID check, no questions. A woman deposited $15,000 in cash, smiled, left. No one doubted them. No one challenged them. Emily watched it all. She pulled out her grandfather's letter again, unfolded it carefully. The paper was soft from being read so many times. The words blurred as she read them. Emily, my girl, never let anyone make you feel small. You were worth more than they will ever understand. This money is for your future. Use it wisely. Make me proud. She folded the letter back up, put it in her pocket. Her phone buzzed. A text from her Uncle Daniel. Running late. Traffic. You doing okay? Emily stared at the message, fingers hovering over the screen. She wanted to tell him, wanted to say what was happening, but she didn't. She typed back, I'm fine, take your time. She hit send. And that's when Richard made his second mistake. 20 minutes passed. Emily stayed in the chair, quiet, invisible. Richard finally walked over, didn't sit, just stood above her looking down. All right, I've made some calls, checked the account, and there's a problem. Emily looked up at him. What kind of problem? The kind where I don't believe this card belongs to you, but it does. I think it's stolen. The words hit her like ice water. It's not stolen. My grandfather gave it to me. So you say, but I can't verify that, and bank policy is clear. If I suspect fraud, I freeze the account. So that's what I'm doing. Emily stood up. You can't do that. I just did. But that's my money. No, it's not. It's the bank's money until you prove otherwise, and right now you haven't proved anything. Emily's chest tightened, her throat burned. She felt tears starting, but blinked them back. Please, just call someone. There has to be someone who can... I'm the branch manager. I'm the someone, and I'm telling you to leave. He gestured to the security guard near the door. Marcus, escort her out. The guard hesitated, just for a second, but he walked over. Emily looked at him, looked at Richard, looked at all the people in the lobby pretending not to watch. No one helped. She picked up her envelope, pressed it to her chest, and walked toward the door. Behind her, someone laughed again, quieter this time, but she heard it. The automatic doors slid open. Emily stepped outside into the parking lot. The sun was too bright, the air too cold. She walked to a stone bench near the edge of the lot, sat down, tried to breathe, and then the tears came. Not loud, not dramatic, just silent, steady tears that she wiped away with her sleeve. She pulled out her phone, tried to call her uncle, hands shaking too much to dial. Cars drove past. People walked by with shopping bags and coffee cups. No one stopped. Emily felt invisible.
Like she didn't matter. Like she'd never mattered. And maybe that's what Richard wanted. But here's what he didn't know. Someone was about to change everything. A black SUV turned into the parking lot, slow, deliberate. It pulled into a spot near the entrance. Engine off. Door opened. A man stepped out. 6'2", gray suit, calm expression, the kind of calm that comes from power you don't need to announce. Daniel Carter, CEO of Carter Investment Group, one of the largest institutional investors in the country, and Emily's uncle. He saw her immediately, walked straight to the bench, knelt down beside her. "Emily, what happened?" She looked up, eyes red, voice shaking. They said the card was stolen. They froze the account. They kicked me out." Daniel's face didn't change, but his jaw tightened. "Who did?" "The manager, Richard." Daniel stood up, pulled out his phone, made a call. "Melissa, it's Daniel Carter. I need you at Heritage Federal now." Pause. "Because your branch manager just humiliated my 10-year-old niece and froze an account that holds over $500,000 of my father's money." Another pause. 5 minutes. Be there." He hung up, looked down at Emily. "Come on, we're going back inside." "I don't want to." "I know, but we're going to fix this together, okay?" Emily hesitated, then nodded. Daniel took her hand, and they walked back through those automatic doors. The lobby went silent. Heads turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Daniel Carter walked through the bank like he owned it, because in many ways, he did. Richard was at his desk, saw Daniel, stood up, smile already forming. "Mr. Carter, I didn't know you were—" "My office, now." Richard's smile faltered. "I'm sorry?" "Conference room, now." Daniel didn't wait for a response. He walked straight to the back of the bank. Emily followed close behind. Richard trailed after them, confused, nervous, trying to figure out what was happening. They entered the conference room. Glass walls, long table, leather chairs. Daniel gestured for Emily to sit. She did. Richard stood near the door. "Mr. Carter, I'm not sure what—" "Do you know who this is?" Richard looked at Emily. "She's a girl who came in with a card. Her name is Emily Carter, daughter of my late brother, granddaughter of William Carter, who saved every dollar he made for 60 years and put it in an account at this bank, your bank." Richard's face went pale. I didn't know." "You didn't ask." Silence. "You laughed at her. You humiliated her in front of your entire lobby. You froze her account without cause. You had security remove her from the building." "I was following protocol." "Protocol." Daniel's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "Protocol is verifying identity, asking questions, treating customers with respect. What you did wasn't protocol. It was prejudice." Richard opened his mouth, closed it. "Pull up her account." "Mr. Carter." "Pull it up." Richard walked to the computer in the corner, logged in, typed Emily's name. The screen loaded. Account balance, $547,318.16. Richard stared at the number. Daniel spoke quietly. "My father worked 3 jobs, saved for 50 years, never bought anything for himself, put everything into that account, for her, because he believed in her future." He paused. "And you decided in 3 seconds that she wasn't worth your time." Richard's hands were shaking. "I made a mistake." "You made a choice." The door opened. A woman in a sharp black suit entered. Melissa Grant, Regional Director. She took one look at the room and understood immediately. "Daniel." "Melissa." She turned to Richard. "Out. Wait in the lobby." Richard left without a word. Melissa sat down across from Daniel and Emily, pulled out a tablet, started typing. "I've reviewed the security footage. I've seen the account. I've heard enough." She looked at Emily. "I'm deeply sorry for what happened to you today. This is not how we operate. This is not who we are." Emily said nothing. She turned to Daniel. "Richard Harlan is suspended effective immediately. Termination will follow pending investigation." Daniel nodded once. "And Emily's account?" "Fully accessible. No restrictions. I'll personally assign her a private banking advisor who will be available whenever she needs anything." She looked at Emily again. "You deserved better. I'm sorry." Emily finally spoke. "I just wanted to check my balance."
Melissa's expression softened. "I know, and you should have been able to. I promise this will never happen again." Richard Harlan sat in the lobby, watching customers move past him. 15 years, gone. Not because of a mistake, because of who he chose to be. He'd looked at Emily and seen nothing, decided she was worthless, disposable. He never asked her name, never asked her story, never gave her a chance. And now it was over. Security escorted him out 20 minutes later. His desk was cleared by the end of the day, his nameplate removed, his login disabled. He walked out of that bank and never came back. But this story isn't about him. It's about Emily. Because here's what most people miss. Emily didn't want revenge. She didn't want Richard fired. She didn't ask for anything except what she deserved: respect. That's it. And when the bank finally gave it to her, she didn't gloat, didn't celebrate. She just thanked Melissa quietly, held her uncle's hand, and left. So what is this story really about? It's about the stories we tell ourselves about other people. Richard saw Emily's shoes and wrote a story. Poor, unimportant, not worth his time. He saw her age and wrote another story. Child, incapable, probably lying. He never asked if his stories were true, because prejudice doesn't ask questions. It decides, fast, final, absolute. And once it decides, it defends that decision no matter what evidence appears. Richard saw a platinum card and decided it was stolen because that story fit better than admitting he was wrong. He saw $500,000 and still didn't change his mind, because changing his mind would mean confronting who he'd been for the last 15 years, and that was too painful. So he doubled down, even when it cost him everything. But here's the part that should terrify you. How many times have you done the same thing? Not in a bank, maybe not even consciously, but how many times have you looked at someone and decided their story in 3 seconds? Saw their clothes, their car, their accent, their age, and wrote a story that let you dismiss them. We all do it, every single day. The difference is consequences. Richard's prejudice was public, recorded, undeniable. Yours might be private, invisible, easy to deny, but it's still there, and it still shapes who you help, who you ignore, who you decide matters. Emily Carter walked out of that bank with her dignity intact, but she learned something that day. She learned that people will judge you before you speak, that respect is earned not through character, but through appearance, that your worth is measured in dollars, not humanity. And she learned that most people will watch injustice happen and do nothing, because that's easier, safer, less uncomfortable. The people in that lobby saw what Richard did. They heard him laugh. They watched Emily sit in the corner for 20 minutes, and they did nothing. Not because they were bad people, but because intervening was inconvenient. And that's the truth no one wants to hear. Injustice doesn't happen because of villains. It happens because of silence.
Because of people who see something wrong and decide it's not their problem. Richard Harlan was one man, but he was enabled by 50 others who watched and said nothing. So ask yourself this. If you had been in that bank that day, sitting in the lobby, watching a 10-year-old girl get humiliated by a man in a suit, what would you have done? Would you have spoken up, walked over, said something? Or would you have looked away, checked your phone, told yourself it wasn't your business? Because that's the question that matters. Not what you do in theory, what you do when it's uncomfortable, when it's awkward, when speaking up might make you the next target. Most people say they'd help, but the evidence suggests otherwise, because Emily sat in that corner for 20 minutes and no one came. Emily Carter is fine now. She has access to her grandfather's money. She has a future, but she also has a memory of a day when she learned that dignity is not given freely, that respect must be fought for, and that the world will test you in ways you never expected. Richard Harlan is gone, but the system that protected him is still there. The silence that enabled him is still there. And somewhere, right now, another Richard is looking at another Emily and making the same choice. The question is, will you be the one who stops him, or the one who looks away? Think about that, because one day you'll be in that lobby, and you'll have to decide who you are. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Like, share, and subscribe to Beat Black Stories, where black stories are seen, heard, and remembered.